and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. It's time for us to review Week 17 in the NFL as 2024 is now here. I am, as ever, your host, Andy Davis, and I'm joined by a returning guest. Back with us today is Steelers fan and the franchise tags, Freddie Hall. Freddie, first of all, how are you? How was your Christmas and New Year?
Very good. Thank you, Andy. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, good Christmas and New Year. Pretty busy. Went back to Leicester. That's where I'm from. Yeah, bit more tired now than I was before Christmas. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, actually. I had a really good time.
And did you get any Steelers themed Christmas presents this year?
Oh, I got a few. Yeah, I got a very nice woolly hat, a sort of vintage cap, a vintage jacket. I also got a terrible towel and a bottle cover, like a Steelers like jersey bottle cover for your beer. So that was pretty cool. So yeah, plenty of NFL gifts. My family know me very well, so there you go. Got plenty of good stuff. Did you get any good Miami stuff?
No, actually, no. For the first time in a few years now, I didn't get anything Dolphins related over Christmas, which it's my birthday in what's that now, 5 days time. So maybe birthday time I'll get something, but Christmas time, no, not even Liverpool either. I had a very unsport based Christmas, which is fine, but I am I'm always in favour of having more gear. But I will say I don't think anyone can beat. I remember seeing you at the London games. You wore an amazing vintage Steelers jacket. I can't imagine
Yeah.
anything beats what you had because that I wish there was something of that from Miami. To be honest, something of that sort of similar kind of thing. It was a really nice jacket you got. So I don't know whether the new one you've got is anything similar to that.
Oh, it's a bit thinner. The one I've got now is white, where that one's all black. To be fair, I've got about 5 vintage E style Steelers jackets or coats, and they're really nice. All of them. I'm very happy with all of them. But the new one I've got's a bit more of a white, cleaner, bit more smarter one, a bit thinner as well. I have to admit, the one or two that one that you're talking about is really nice, but it doesn't have to take up some room. It's a really really big puffy one. Makes me look about 4 sizes bigger than I actually am, which is I don't know, I suppose it's a good thing. I suppose I could do gain some weight. So
Yeah, me too. So of course we're here to talk about all things week 17 with what we now got only 1 week left of the season. Quick scores, Thursday night saw the Browns make the playoffs for just the third time in this century as they beat the Jets 37-20 on Thursday Night Football. And then sort of I think the one that had the biggest talking points came on Saturday night, which technically was down as Monday Night Football, but it was on Saturday night as the Cowboys and Lions played. Obviously, big game, both fighting out for the number 2 seed. The Cowboys won by 20 points to 19, but that's not really the end of the story. The Lions thought they got a touchdown to make it 2019, and they went for the 2 points, which in hindsight now you think maybe they shouldn't have gone for, but they went for a 2 point conversion. They scored with their lineman, but it got brought back for an eligible receiver. Now this has caused a lot of people to complain about the refereeing because there seems to be a lot of issues with the actual referee and sort of I think from my understanding from watching it, he thought it was a different player, and it's all very, very weird behavior. But what was your take on? I know our group chat went a bit off on the Sunday morning we've got, and yeah, I want to get your take on that sort of incident.
Well, firstly, the hindsight thing of it, everyone goes now, oh, they should just kick field goal and then gone to overtime. But I love the aggression. I love the aggression. That's how Dan Campbell has laid his stamp. He laid his stall out in the market when he first got there and said that he was going to be aggressive with this team and he was going to, push the ball and move the needle. And that's exactly what he's done with the Lions. And they've been a real pleasure to watch this year. And so have the Cowboys. I don't think it was a wrong move to make. I think this is a high stakes time of the year in the NFL, and it takes sometimes plays like this where it pushes you over the edge. A win for them would have taken them to the number 1 seed in the NFC. Do they keep that in week 18? I don't know. We'd have to see and see how the rest of the results played out, and it would have maybe halted the Cowboys' progress of winning potentially the NFC East. From what I can tell, it's just a refereeing blunder. It is a complete lack of communication by the refereeing. Dan Campbell made very clear that they had talked about this sort of play, that this is how they would signal it. They purposefully sent more linemen to the referee to report as eligible than needed to be because they wanted to cause confusion with the Dallas Cowboys, and it worked. Unfortunately, though, it caused confusion with the main referee. So it's a complete blunder, and it's one of many blunders this year that the refs have done, and it's been a hot topic this year that well, refereeing sport in general, but refereeing the NFL has been a bit subpar, and this just highlights it, especially in such a high stakes game like this, because the Lions are really trying to go for it all, and I really hope that they have a good run in the playoffs as well. So it's a shame for the Lions. I wouldn't take it back going for it though. I'm more than happy that they were aggressive against the Dallas Cowboys, who had a fantastic game themselves, especially CD Lamb, obviously having a bit of a career day. So yeah, it's just poor officiating, and it's one that they can't take back.
No, certainly not. I mean, for the Lions, either way, I think if you told a lot of fans start the year, you go into week 18 as the NFC North champions and the third seed locked up, I think every fan would have said yes to that. So I think either way, they got their first ever home game of Ford Field. It's a great year to be a Lions fan, and I think there's the potential they could end that what is currently the longest streak without a playoff win. I think it's 30 years. And yeah, I think for them, at the moment they could be playing the Rams in the wild card round, which would be an amazing dynamic if you look at the Goff Stafford trade, and that would be. I think both teams have won from that trade and for different reasons, and I think that'll be a really interesting dynamic on the playoffs. And I think that if we do that, then they'll probably play most likely either the Cowboys again away, or if it could be the Niners. It depends how it goes with the Eagles, who are currently the fifth seed. So I think, yeah, Lions fan, exciting times. And I think here's a question for you, Freddie. Actually, if the Dolphins and Lions were both to win a playoff game this year, they got the current two longest streaks without a playoff win. Can you guess for me which team would be third?
Team would be third, longest streak without a playoff win. So the Browns won one the other year, so it'd be the Lions. Let me just have a quick flick through here.
So just a context.
Is it the is it the oh is it the Commanders?
It is, and they're actually fourth. So just for context, the Lions' current streak is 32, the Dolphins is 23, and then the Commanders would be the second most if both teams were to win. They got currently an 18-year streak without a playoff win. If it helps you, this team is not going to be in the playoffs this year as well, so they will be guaranteed to be that number one spot if both Lions and Dolphins won. And for any help, it's been 21 years for this team.
21 years for this team. They won't be getting to the playoffs this year.
So the longest streak without a playoff win. So they've made the playoffs 2 seasons ago, I want to say, maybe three, but they haven't actually won a playoff game for the third longest time with 21 years.
Houston Texans.
No, so they are only 4 years without a playoff win.
21.
And amazingly, in a bit more of a clue as well, this team's last win came in a championship game. So the last time they won a game was to make a Super Bowl.
That's time they won a game was in the Super Bowl.
Was to make a Super Bowl. So they lost this Super Bowl.
Make a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Is it the Jets?
No, so they are
no, because Jets had Mark Sanchez and they did it in
the So their last win came in 2010 AFC Divisional. Same conference as well. So
same conference as the Jets.
Yeah.
Oh, so well, no, because the Bills have been to the playoff, Patriots, Dolphins, Jets. I'm stumped. I'll be honest, I'm stumped.
So the longest streak, well, at the moment, the third longest streak without a playoff win is the Las Vegas Raiders. Their last win came in the 2002 AFC Championship game, which, of course, for those Buccaneers fans will know that they ended up losing to them the next day in what ended up being the John Gruden Bowl.
Oh, yeah, indeed, against Tampa. Yeah, that. To be honest, I was going to get Colts next, but I knew that was wrong at the same time. Then I would have got to Raiders eventually.
Well, I think it could be a few more years before they actually win a playoff game, which will not please my brother. Let's put it that way. Now, our next game we want to focus on is another game that I was really dreading talking about. Was the first lot of games on Sunday, as the Ravens completely annihilated the Dolphins, despite the Dolphins taking a 7-0 lead at the start of the game by 56 points to 19. And really, I think the result has almost become the least talked about, because since then, Tua went down with a shoulder injury, although that seems to be okay. But the big one, especially at a time where there was 3 minutes left of the game, fourth quarter, the game was done. But Bradley Chubb suffered a season-end injury. I believe it was his knee, which I think with Jalen Phillips also out, is a massive blow. It's a massive blow. And I think there's definitely two folds to this game. I think On the one side, I think the Ravens, it shows just how good they are. The fact that they've once again beaten, I mean, everyone talk about the Dolphins not being a good team. The Ravens keep beating good teams. They've once again, after beating the Niners last week, they've beaten us very, very convincingly. But on the other side, I think it's another game where we've once again been exposed. And I think we beat the Cowboys, yes, but it was helped by a massive 15-yard flag. And I think that we could have easily lost that game as well. So yeah, for me, it doesn't really help my pessimism, let's say, about the playoffs. I do worry again with all the injuries, and I do worry about a first round knockout, especially if we end up losing to the Bills and end up going further as a road team. I do worry a lot about a thing. It just screams to me. I don't know why McDaniel, Lee Reynolds alluded to it on the Sky coverage that even at half time, take them off. And I think even third quarter, midway through, you're down by 30 points, whatever it was, 20 points. Just take them off. You're not going to win the game. The Ravens were home, showing no signs of slowing down. We were showing no signs of getting back into that game. And that move could ultimately, Bradley Chubb was playing like that, especially since Phillips went out injured. Actually, he's playing his best football, I think, personally, in the last 3-4 weeks since he became a Dolphin. And to not take our starters out in that game, and Tua, he said he's fine, but is he fine? We don't know. So overall, a real damaging day for the Dolphins, but equally the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens look to be the best team in the league right now.
They certainly did beat the brakes off you, and Lamar at this point, he is the MVP of the league. Like
Yeah.
he has to be. I mean, what I think is different about Lamar this season that you can go comfortably, he's the MVP, is he's winning it with his arm. And that's not what anyone ever thought about Lamar Jackson when he came into this league, is that he'd be a throwing quarterback rather than a running quarterback. Yes, he still does a lot on his feet, is very mobile and does make up the hard yards from. But he had 321 yards for 5 touchdowns, 18 for 21 completions. He's just been superb. He's been a real pleasure to watch, and it's been such a pleasure as a fan to see his development, and for him to, have really stuck it to the people that said, he wasn't going to be much of a quarterback in this league. Really, he was just going to be a mobile guy, and that he couldn't throw. And now he's proving, he's done it lots of times this season, where he's proving he has that dual capability, and he's been injury marred, admittedly, in the last 2 to 3 years, but this year he's been fully healthy, and he's just been a pleasure to watch it. And what a team they are! The Dolphins, unfortunately, it was to be expected in a way. Your defense is just not good enough. You have an incredible offense. No one can deny that. You probably have the most exciting offense in the league when it's all fully fit and healthy. But the defense is where you struggle. And you've got some good players on defense. Like I said, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb. I'm a massive Javon Holland fan. I think he's really, really underrated. He's really good safety. But the defense has been a problem, and you've been sort of exposed in a way. Do I think you'd be 1-out in the playoffs? I don't know, because I think your offense is that good. You could really just outscore teams, but in the playoffs, it's an old school way of thinking. But defenses and running game matters. You've got that run game for sure, but is your defense really sort of taking a bit of a dip? Yeah, it is, because also with the injuries now, you've got unfortunate injuries at this point in the season. I think Tua will be okay. You need Waddle back though as well. I think Tyreek Hill may get the headlines in the newspapers, but Jalen Waddle's the one that really, I think, keeps this offense clicking over. So yeah, it's an exciting time. I think Ravens now in discussion for the AFC are Super Bowl favourites, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I think I still think the playoffs are a different beast, and I still think Mahomes and Chiefs at Arrowhead, they can beat anyone on their day, and I think they certainly shouldn't be knocked out. But I think in the current form, I do think the Bills, if they can get in next week, which I think they will, I think I think they'll be a team to be feared, and I think certainly if they get the 60, they'll play the Chiefs, and I think that'll be a hell of a game. But I think in terms of the Ravens, I think they certainly should be the favourites and should be on current form, and I think to the MVP, I've been asking guests in recent weeks MVP, and I've said McCaffrey as Tyreek Hill in recent weeks, but I think now you look at that game, especially with Tyreek Hill was involved in the game, but didn't do anywhere near as much as Lamar Jackson did, and I think that I think that he hasn't got a star receiver like a Jamar Chase has for Joe Burrow, or Kelsey for Mahomes, or Tyreek Hill for Tua. The Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, and Elder Beckham, none of them are like seen as like elite receivers. Like, so he's doing all this with. He's not doing it with, I'd probably say, none of them are probably say in the top 10 or 15 wide receivers, maybe 15 wide receivers in the league. He's not got like one of the best in the league. So to do what he's doing with his arm as well, I mean, look at his 2019 MVP season, and most of his highlight plays came from his feet. And I think this is credit to Todd Monken. And OC there that most of his big plays this year have come from the air. And I can't think of many top of my head big plays he's had with his feet. They've all been mainly with his arms. So to do what he's doing without really elite receiver and just three very good ones, I think is a huge credit to Lamar Jackson. I think that he is now probably, I think he should be probably an unanimous MVP. And I think that game, I think, proved it that once again, against a good team in a big game on prime time, he's done it again. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting where it happens in the playoffs. So I think that, I think a Chiefs Ravens game in Arrowhead or in Baltimore, so it will be in Baltimore. That would just be some show. Even the Bills, I think that would be some show, and I think that should be an exciting game, and hopefully, it should be a exciting off season. Exciting postseason, and Super Bowl itself should be. You think they most likely will be at least in the AFC title game. So yeah, big up the Ravens. Rest of Sunday's games, talking to the Bills, they did get a win, 27-21 over the Patriots. The Bears got a win over the Falcons, 37-17. The Texans got a big win over the Titans to keep their division and playoff hope alive with a 26-3 win. Colts did the same thing. They won by 23 points to 20. The Jags beat the Panthers 26-0. The Rams made the playoffs with a 26-25 win over the Giants. And the Saints got an important win in the NFC South with a 23-13 win over the Buccaneers. And the 49ers clinched the number one seed in the NFC with a 27-10 win over the Washington Commanders. But our next game we want to focus on is in Philadelphia, as the Eagles lost again, their fourth time in five games against the Arizona Cardinals, who get a rare win this year. Not so about the game, but more about the Eagles. How much a worry is it for you? Because for me personally, I mentioned the Dolphins could be one and done. I think the Eagles could be, especially if they, I think even against the Buccaneers, like it is for Jackson at the moment, I think Buccaneers on a day, Mayfield went to Lambeau Field and threw a perfect passer rating game, the first ever quarterback to do that in Lambeau Field. So Baker Mayfield has been excellent this year. So I wouldn't put it past him beating this struggling secondary in Philadelphia. But what's your take been on just how poorly a team that, was 10-1 mid-December to now be 11-5 and not even winning the NFC East? Just how much of a worry is this for you in terms of their playoff hopes or how far they'll go in the playoffs?
I think they can still go far because I still think the Link is a place that is people fear to go to. It's a bit of an Anfield for the NFL, isn't it? It's a place that people do struggle at. I don't think they're a bad team. I know fellow Eagles friends of mine who are Eagles fans. They are calling for heads already. They don't think they'll be good enough. They've said that they are posers and they're not really, not the real deal, a little bit like the Steelers were when we went on that 11-game winning streak that season about 3 years ago. And I can agree to some of that, but I also think when you are that good and when you are going to Super Bowl and win and consistently been very good for 4 years now, teams will find you out and teams will play against you and teams will find a way. And you say you don't. You said it's more of an Eagles loss than a Cardinals win. I think Kyler Murray was fantastic, and I think it was a game showing that Kyler Murray is a decent NFL quarterback in this league and will probably retain his job in Arizona. You would think if he gets a bit more firepower. Excuse me, sorry. I don't think they're a bad team. I think they're still really formidable. They've still got some fantastic players. They have just maybe ran out of ways to win. And when you are a good team, you have to ride your luck a little bit as well, and the luck hasn't been there for some of the games for the Eagles this year. They also did have a bit of a weaker strength of schedule last year, but in my opinion, a lot of people disagree with me that, but I believe that to be true. They've come up against tougher teams this year. The Dallas Cowboys have been a lot better this year than they've been in previous years, and the Cowboys have been at their heels every year in the division. People forget that, even when they weren't winning loads of games, the Eagles are winning 10 games, 9 games. The Cowboys were still on their heels with that. The Cowboys have been closer to the Eagles, I think, than a lot of people have realised for a long time. And that's me included. I didn't think the Dallas Cowboys would be that good or are that good. But they do constantly keep on them. And when you are a good team, you have a target on your back, and teams will find a way to play against you. I've never really believed the Jalen Hurts type. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's a top 5. He's in the top 10 conversation, of course, but I don't think he's extremely gifted. I don't think he's on a Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen level. I think he's just had a very good year last year. That's as much as I have thought about him. And their defense has always been really good, but they've been giving up big chunk plays. And they were commended last year for their rotation maybe this year their rotation has worked against them. And they also lost both their coordinators in the offseason. We have to remember that. And Nick Gannon, isn't it, the Arizona Cardinals head coach? It was their coordinator last year. So he knows that team. He knows them inside out. He knows how to play against them. So you have to give it that in mind as well. Do I think they're one and done in the playoffs? I think Miami, I lean more towards one and done than Eagles, to be honest with you. I think they've got a bit more feathers in their cap, the Eagles, than the Dolphins have. But it would certainly be interesting. It's a tough place to go, Philadelphia. You never know what will happen in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think for both those teams in the I think winning that division is so key because the home advantage in both Dallas and Philadelphia is huge. I mean, Dallas especially, they're a completely different team at home than they are on the road, and I think I always said before they play on turf. I would love to see them in London because I think they would put on in Tottenham a hell of a show. But I think same as Philadelphia. I mean, I went to Philadelphia this year, and that is one of the loudest, best atmospheres I've experienced at any sporting event. I think only Arrowhead tops it for me. So I think for both teams having that home advantage, I think it's huge. So I think that if Philadelphia were to lose out on the division and have to play most likely all their playoff games on the road, I can see them struggling. I mean, if they have to play the 49ers on the road, I think that would be a loss. I think maybe more like a divisional round loss, but it wouldn't shock me if the Buccaneers, I don't think the Saints or Falcons, if they won the division, would beat them in the NFC South, but certainly put them up in Dallas or in San Francisco, or even Detroit, I think they may struggle. But yeah, I think ultimately, yeah, I do worry for them because we mentioned about the Bills and the Ravens hitting form at the right time. The Eagles are doing the opposite of that, and I think that we've seen it with your Steelers in recent years, the Cardinals in recent years as well. Ultimately, struggle down the stretch, and then come playoffs, they go out with a whimper. So yeah, for me, I think all Eagles fans should be worried right now, and I think they're in a interesting place. Before we go on to our final game, our other few games, Broncos beat the Chargers 19-6. The Chiefs won the AFC West with a 25-17 win over the Bengals, and the Packers maintain their playoff hopes with a 33-10 win over their division rivals, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, our final game involves your team, Freddie, the Steelers, as they beat the Seahawks in a great game, 30 points to 23. This means that ensures for another year that Mike Tomlin has a winning season as you go 9-7. Now, I'm going to go through these playoff permutations. So you have a chance of getting in. You have a chance. So for you guys to get in with a 9-7 record, you have to win and hope that either Buffalo lose, the Jags lose or tie, the Texans and Colts tie, or you tie, the Jags lose, and the Houston Texans Colts game doesn't end in a tie, or the Jags lose, Broncos win, and there's no tie between Colts and Texans. Now that's a lot of permutation.
So more or less, you're saying there's no chance.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
what
much.
that tells me.
Yeah, I mean, what do you make of that? Because there's another. I think I've seen a few Steelers fans in recent weeks saying they're. It's a bit like Stoke City back in the day. They were getting tired of winning these games but playing bad football and the Pulis. I think the same thing here. I think it seems like a lot of Steelers fans are getting fed up of these 9-8 win seasons and just barely making the playoffs or just missing out. Now, what's your view on that? Because Tottenham's been there for a long time, 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl win, no losing seasons. That's an incredible achievement. But I believe I read somewhere he's only won a playoff game in 4 seasons or something like that. I could be wrong. That could be a completely wrong stat. But what's your take been on the recent, what's the word? The recent flack on Tomlin on social media?
Well, I'm not saying I want to get rid of Tomlin at all, but something has to change. I'm not satisfied with going 500 and not making the playoffs and also having a poor draft pick. Like, what have we achieved? And we've done that every year. We've done that every year for about 5, 6 years, or we've gone into playoffs and won and done straight away. And we probably didn't deserve to be in the playoffs anyway. That's my problem, is that I hate this mediocrity. I hate this middle ground. Either be, it sounds really silly, but I want you to be great or I want you to be really bad. I'm not, I'm happy being bad because you get the draft pick, you get young, exciting players, you get a more refreshing franchise in a way, and then you can build again. And I think the Steelers are a team that would build again. Problem is, we scuppered the opportunity to get a quarterback early when Ben went down. We've then just sort of had a really good defense, and we're just wasting the defense because our offense has been no good. Mason Rudolph in this game against Seahawks was fantastic. I have to give it to him. He looked, I listened to Rich Eisen in the podcast earlier. He looked like Big Ben. He looked like primetime Big Ben. He looked strong. He looked positive in the pocket. He looked like he knew exactly what he was doing at all times. And that is something we have lacked for 2 years now under Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. Is someone that looks like they they are grabbing the game by the scruff of the neck, and they're playing to win. He made our offense look incredible, and our offense has not looked incredible at all year. There's been games where they've looked more positive, and I have said probably 3 times this year that game was the best game of offense we played, and I've gone, it was better than that game, and this one has overtaken all of them. This is one's the most memorable for me because we just looked so positive in our offense. We looked like, and you have to have a green of it. Every run that Najee was making against the Seahawks seemed to break through. Our offensive line played probably the best it's played all year. They really clicked on all cylinders. Jaylen Warren has just been a breath of fresh air for us the whole year. But Pickens and Johnson were making completions, so was Frymouth. The thing we actually did struggle with, which we haven't struggled with all year, was our defensive line wasn't that great. I didn't think against the Seahawks. I thought our secondary struggled as well, but I thought our secondary struggled all year. That's not really a surprise to me that we're not covering DK and players like that, nor do many teams cover them sort of players. I didn't think we pressured the quarterback enough really in the game, and Kenneth Walker was brilliant for the Seahawks. He ran a really good game. So that was the big surprise in this game. But I'm bored of the mediocrity. I don't need it. I'm not bothered about 500. 500 is what achievement? Okay, it is a good achievement. But where are we going next? We're going to be what, pick 18 in the draft? You know, maybe someone comes down to us. Maybe we trade up, which I wouldn't mind either. We stick with Pickett, which really we know is going nowhere. We have another good defense next year. The defense will be good next year. I can tell you that for free. Our defense is going to be good, like barring injury. And even with injuries, we tend to still keep it together. So I just need to see progression. There's just been no progression the last 4 or 5 years, and that's what it disappoints me. I'm not saying Tomlin out. I'm just saying maybe we need to get some people, some coordinators in who have got a bit more creativity to them.
Yeah, I think it certainly hasn't looked much better since Canada left. But I want to get your thoughts on this report because there's a report coming out from The Athletic that says that Steelers quarterback Kenny Pickett reportedly refused to back up Mason Rudolph during last week's game. 2021 first round pick was made inactive, and Rudolph was now named the starter for this week's game. What's your take on that? Because Pickett hasn't been good. I don't think he's really been good since he joined the league, but you know, it's only 2 years in. We see a lot of quarterbacks make that 3rd-year jump. But for me personally, I don't see him making a jump. He's got a good receiver in Pickens. He's got that guy to throw to. So what's your take on Pickett being? And do you see him having, you sort of alluded to there, but do you have any sort of hope for the future for him?
No, I don't particularly. I think he is a good backup and he's capable, but I don't think he throws the ball well enough, and he's not that athletic. Well, you need to be good, really good at one of them too. Because you can be really good thrower and not be as athletic, or you can be really athletic and not a great thrower, and fans will forgive you. I would forgive you for that, but he's just not showing any of that. He seems very panicked in the pocket. You know, it sounds people will laugh at me when I say this, but I do believe it. When Zach Wilson came in this year, Zach Wilson's been bad, but you could tell he'd been tutored by Aaron Rodgers, because you could just tell immediately he was just being smarter in everything he did. And I don't think Pickett has really had that tutelage. I think with that tutelage, he may become a better quarterback. For me, I don't want this to happen because I want a young quarterback for our future. But really going into next year, I think we need to look at a veteran. I really do. If we want to make a big push, which I think we should, because I think the time is running out on a lot of these players. Najee's going to go into the contract year. TJ Watt is getting older. Cam Hayward's only getting older. We've filled our secondary with veterans really, Devonta Kazee, Patrick Peterson, players like that. We're not exactly, got a young team where we can wait. We're sort of a team that's ready to go and do it now. So do we then go and have a look at a veteran in the off season? I think we maybe should, and there might be some players out there. Russell Wilson be maybe one of them, though I don't believe that. So it's a shame, because I think he was the story that we wanted it to. The player played Pittsburgh and everything like that. But I think we shot the gun too late. We should have taken Jalen Hurts in the 2nd round when we took Chase Claypool. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts would have been the player, but he has been for the Eagles, for the Steelers. I'm not saying that, but I think he would have been better than Kenny Pickett. And we jumped the gun too quickly with Kenny Pickett because we weren't willing to wait for the quarterbacks that were coming out this year, because I think they felt like they had a bit of pressure on themselves to do it. I would say move on. I am one for being patient, and I am one to maybe give them that third full year. But when I saw that game against Seattle, I just thought this team looks like a team that's ready to go places. Actually, it's just the quarterback position that is the wrong bit.
Yeah, I think personally Russell Wilson could be the guy. I mean, he's obviously his future seems to be not in Denver. I mean, even you can look at Gardner Minshew and some of these backups that have excelled this year, particularly Minshew. I think he's been a standout back.
That's what doesn't help Pickett either. Is that there's been a lot of backup quarterbacks who have played very very well.
Yeah, I think even Browning showed it at times, and I think
Mm.
it's worrying times for Kenny Pickett. Now we like to ask our questions now, our guests, sorry, now this time of the season. MVP vote, which you've already given me, but also what would be your Super Bowl matchup in February? What are you predicting for February in Vegas?
Ooh, is this what I want to happen or what I think will happen?
Give
Hmm.
me, give me what you give me both. Why not? Give me both. What you want to happen and what you think will
What I'd want to happen is Bills 49ers.
happen. Or what game?
No. That's a lie. What I'd want to happen is Bills Lions.
Oh yeah, because guaranteed
That
winner.
because I'd love that because I'd love that. But like, I've got a friend, a good friend, who a colleague, an ex-work colleague, but a friend as well, who's a big Lions fan, and it'd be really nice for him. And I love the way I love the style of football they play. And the Bills, again, I have a very close friend who's a Bills fan, but also I've like pounded the Bills drum the last 2 years that they're going to get to the Super Bowl, and it's just fall short every time. And I think they are due it. They are too good to have not won it. The one I think will happen, I think it'll be Ravens 49ers. I think. And I'm not upset with that. I just don't really want the Ravens to get there being a Steelers fan. But I do really like the 49ers. And yeah, they're such an enjoyable team to watch. And I would take the Lions or the 49ers in Super Bowl. I wouldn't be upset with either of them because I think I like them both a lot. Anyone but the Chiefs, I find it boring. I find it boring. 49ers in a way I could go, that's a bit boring. But I like it being new and different every year. That's the fun bit.
Yeah, I agree. I love Mahomes, but I don't like seeing the same team win it back-to-back years. Well, I will say though, could you take if the Bills were to win, or could you take Byron gloating all year long? Could you take that in the group chat?
Of course, you know Byron, don't you, as
Yeah,
well?
he's been on the podcast before. Yeah,
Yeah, I could cope with it because he's a very knowledgeable NFL fan. He deserves to have his flowers.
but of course he'll have the luxury if they do make it this year. I think I'd love to do one year in Australia where their Super Bowl starts at 10 a.m. on a Monday morning. That sounds for me, someone who's a morning bird. That sounds great. I take that over 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. any day of the week.
I always think the Super Bowl finishes earlier than everyone thinks. Like whenever I've watched the last few years, I'm like, oh, here we go, 6 a.m. it ends, and actually it's finished at like 3, and I've been like, whoa,
Yeah.
this is like surprising. It goes quicker than you think. I think it's just
Mm.
we had the pleasure of the Falcons Pats game that went long into the night in overtime and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think we get that many overtimes now, do we?
No, not at all. Before we do go, we've got 4 minutes left, but just quickly, since I last saw you in London, you've been to Germany since. I know we've had guests on the podcast who've spoken about their Germany experience and spoken highly of it. But what was your view? Obviously,
Mm,
you had the press pass rather than the fan experience. What was your
mm.
experience like in Germany?
Brilliant, fantastic. I would. I'm a very lucky person this year. I've been very, very fortunate to have gone to all three Tottenham games in media and both the Frankfurt games in media. I've been incredibly lucky, and I think the German experience was just so much better. I just think it was a lot more. A lot of people who said they've been to the Munich one said that Munich was better, and I can imagine it will because I probably am going to go to Munich next year. If I was like a general ticket buyer now, which I may be these coming games because we've got plenty of guys at the franchise tag that deserve to go and to do all this sort of stuff with the media, which we're very, very lucky to do. If I was buying tickets, I would probably save my money now and not go to London and go to Germany instead. I thought it was just such a fun atmosphere. Really good. I think the fan experiences are way better. I admit Frankfurt's not the most interesting of cities, which is why I think they are moving it back to Munich. There's not loads to do in Frankfurt, but there was enough. There was enough to do, and I had a blast. Like I went back. Obviously, as you know, them Andrew and Sky. I went with Andrew the first weekend, Sky the second weekend, and it was a blast. It was memories that we laugh about. We'll laugh about for a very, very long time, and met some so cool people that when we were there, in the media and outside the media as well. And it was a really fun experience. The shame the second game was a bit of a dud, but it was all right. That was okay. We had a pretty. I know it wasn't a thrilling game, the Dolphins Chiefs game in the end, but it was still really fun to be in the stadium to watch it. So yeah, if you've been to London games a fair few times, I would definitely recommend maybe save your money and give Germany a go. Do both the games because it's not expensive when you're there. The flights aren't crazy expensive. The hotels aren't great, especially if there's a few of you going. I understand that everyone can afford it and it is a luxury. I get that. But yeah, I thought it was brilliant, and hopefully maybe one day we'll have more European games. I really hoped for Spain would happen this year. I really did fancy a trip to, I assume it would be at the Bernabeu, a bit to Madrid. But you never know. Maybe Sao Paulo might be on the cards for the franchise tag this year, which, yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's a very exciting future for the NFL internationally.
Absolutely. And for someone who's wanted to go to Rio, well, Brazil in general, particularly Rio, which I don't think is, I don't know how far it is from Sao Paulo, but I've always wanted to go Brazil. That's going to be, I think I'll find a way to go regardless, I think next year. Same as Germany. I've not done Germany yet. I think that's going to be, I think, one hell of an experience. But that is where we will end the podcast for today. So first of all, huge thank you, mate, once again for coming on.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me, Andy, and Happy New Year to you.
And you too, mate, and you too, and to the rest of Franchise Tag. And for those listening or watching on YouTube who haven't yet come across Franchise Tag, do check it out on all podcast platforms as well as social media such as Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You'll find the boys all on there if you want to get some good NFL content. But in the meantime, this has been our Week 17 review. I've been Andy, this has been Freddie, and we'll see you guys for our Week 18 preview. See you then.